Today, we're braving harsh winter conditions to turn this pork belly into bacon unlike anything you'll find on grocery store shelves. But is it worth all this effort? Now, the good news is it's very easy to do at home, provided you have all the right tools and enough space in your fridge. So we gotta bust this thing down a little bit. This is 13 pounds of pork belly. So I'm gonna shave off about like 3 pounds here or so and just kind of keep it for other projects. So I'm gonna cut this in half this way, I'm gonna cut this into quarters that way, and then that's probably enough to work with for what we need to do, yeah? To make bacon, we need to cure our pork belly. Curing is a process where you can keep meat good longer by using specific preservatives, such as salt, sugar, garlic, or the star of today's episode, nitrogen, specifically sodium nitrite. It's what stops botulism spores from turning your breakfast into a trip to the hospital, and it gives cured meat that nice pink color. So there's two main ways to cure bacon, dry curing and wet curing. We're not gonna talk about injection curing because that's blasphemous. So dry curing is where you put your seasoning directly on the pork belly while you age it. The idea being that the salt will draw the moisture out of the bacon, it'll dissolve, and it'll seep back inside to cure on the way through. The benefits being a more intense flavor and a firmer piece of meat. I tried it before and I did not get the coverage that I needed. I ended up with some gray spots on the meat. It was probably toxic. It was heartbreaking. So we're gonna use the wet method, which is just dissolving your seasoning in some water, follow the curing salt recommendations from the package, double that with sea salt, and add in some crushed garlic for flavor, and then let it sit in the fridge for 7 days. While packaging your pork belly, make sure to get as much air out as possible because you want liquid to stay in contact with the meat at all times. Flip it over once each day to help everything move through and get a nice even cure. And then we rinse it off under the sink and toss it in the smoker.
All right, folks, it is 7 degrees below zero here in Canada, otherwise known as 20 Fahrenheit. It is really good temperature for cold smoking because we don't want to cook the meat as we do so. So to get the smoker set up, check this out. So we've got the chimney set up here just to heat things up a little bit faster, and we have this really small snake set up because we only need to smoke for about 3 hours or so. The idea here is we're going to put all of our lit charcoal on this side, and then it's slowly going to spread across, and I have some wood chips sprinkled throughout so that we can introduce some smoke in our bacon as the burn goes through. So the goal here is to keep it under 50 degrees Celsius because we don't want to cook the meat and we don't want to render any fat off. We want to keep it as a nice cold chunk of pork belly that's been infused with smoke. And this is the real reason that I built this smoker all the way back. I really wanted to make my own bacon.
All right, so our smoke is done and I have my bacon on this side and I have a control piece of grocery store bacon on the other side. You can see this is a really nice cut. It has that nice marbling to it. It has some nice pink flavor inside. It does have a nice smoky aroma. It's applewood. We used maple and bourbon for ours because welcome to Canada. So for proper comparison purposes, I'm gonna try to cut the same thickness of bacon as our grocery store control. Let's see if my knife's sharp enough to do it in one pass. This is very difficult to cut warm. It's a lot easier when it comes out of the fridge or the freezer, but we did get one nice piece of bacon out of this. So you'll notice this nice bright line of pink up through the top part of the meat. When you smoke a piece of meat, you get nitrogen coming off as well. In theory, you could do the whole nitrogen curing process by smoking alone, but it'll take a long time and you run the risk of having a large bacteria infection because bacteria loves warm. So for safety purposes, we cure it in the fridge first with salt, and then we just finish it in the smoker for flavor. If you want to try this on your own, please read up about food safety because food poisoning is not something to play around with. So to compare, and I will do a nice side by side so you can see that the thickness is almost the same when we throw it in the frying pan. Man, that homemade bacon's way more photogenic. All right, I wanted to make a fool of the grocery store bacon, but this one actually turned out all right. I have had other situations where bacon that has sugar in the ingredient list leaves that nasty residue on the bottom of the pan, but we didn't have that issue today. So to compare our two pieces of bacon, they both shrunk at about the same rate. They did both crisp up nice, but the most important part is the taste. So with our homemade bacon, you know those scenes in Japanese shows where someone bites into something and then they're just immediately transported to another world? The garlic infusion that we have is fantastic. The meat is still very, very tender when you bite inside, but we have that nice crunch on the outer layer from frying up in the pan all nice. The smoke profile is very smooth and you don't often find bourbon smoked bacon in the store. Comparing to the grocery store bacon, you get a very strong sense of applewood, but it's almost artificial, like you would get from a bag of hickory sticks or something, where it's smoke flavored. But the fun thing about making bacon on your own is you get to completely control the flavor. You don't have to put as much garlic in as I did. You can add black pepper, you can add paprika, you can add honey. It's still sugar, but it is still a preservative and it can come out pretty nice. You can do whatever you want, and provided you have the equipment for it, it's pretty straightforward. One quick point, if you get this far, put any leftovers in the freezer. I hope you're not eating 10 pounds of bacon in one sitting. Even though we did cure it with sodium nitrite and also smoke, this isn't as packed full of preservatives as grocery store bacon, and I have no idea what the actual shelf life's gonna be above freezing. So just so we don't tempt fate any further than we already have leftovers in the freezer. But for now, I have to eat a whole bunch of bacon. Unfortunately, I can't share any with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.